Where do you think this attachment is coming from?
It was because of the abandonment. It's true. It stands from failed talking stages. Has also come from church hurt. I feel like as a woman, like we tend to attach so much, lose our identity in being anxious. Do you feel like you're worthy of love? And if you feel like you aren't, I encourage everybody to look for Jesus, look for God as your ultimate answer.
Have you ever been in a relationship where you couldn't tell if it was God's will or just your attachment? Because today I want to talk about attachment in relationships, how it forms, why it confuses people, and how God brings clarity. And if you're new here, hit the subscribe button because every story you hear in the votes can change someone's life or maybe even yours. How are you feeling? Feeling good? Kind of nervous? Are you excited? Yeah? Awesome. So it's this episode is gonna be different, like I said at the beginning, I do want to talk about attachments, but not only attachment when it comes to relationships, because I do believe that there's different kinds of attachments, right? So and for those that do not know, Allison, she's one of my friends, and she's actually here with us to help us, and she brought some notes with her, and she's gonna help us understand why all this attachment stuff happens, and also how can we prevent us from getting attached, because someone out there has also gotten attached before, and it could be like, let's say, like a certain kind of an addiction, or it can be to a certain person, so I'm excited for this episode. Yeah, awesome. So, before we dive into the whole main topic, I just, so people can get to know a little bit about you. So if you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I was born and raised here in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm the oldest sibling I'm the oldest sibling out of two. I still live currently with my parents. I'm 25, and I do um, I do live for the Lord. So me and my whole family were raised in the church, in a Christian community church. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself. And can I talk about also work wise?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, tell us a little bit.
I do have a full time job. I did graduate with my bachelor's in social work last year, and right now I'm currently working as a caseworker in the court systems. So that's what I do for.
So tell me a little bit about your job title. Like, what exactly do you do there?
So I work with a nonprofit organization called CASA of Hidalgo County. I did my internship there last year from 2024 in the fall semester. And as soon as I graduated from college, I got a phone call in January. They offered me the position at the nonprofit that I am currently working there. But what we do is we are a court-appointed specialist advocacy. So which means that I represent children in court who've been abused and neglect. We work alongside with CPS, the attorneys, and our duties is to make sure that these kids are in good and stable environments, free from abuse and free from neglect. And once so these cases go along for years, a year.
Yeah.
So that the goal is to always reunify with parents, with family members, and sometimes that's not the case. So we go ahead and take it to court. But yeah, I represent kids in court. It's kind of like an attorney, but not really, because I don't have that title as an attorney, but I do represent them in court, and that's a little bit about what the job is.
That's really interesting. I never heard anything like that. No, that's really cool. So, because I know, you had mentioned to me that, you wanted to talk about this topic about attachment. And it was something that you had mentioned that it was something that isn't really talked about as much.
So growing up, I've always been in a stable home. My family have gone through a rough patch in the beginning when I was And later on, I later discovered, you know, I wanted something different when I became as a young adult. During college, I wanted something different, such as looking for a community that could relate to me in the Christian community. So I did find a good young adult church that I attend to, and I later discovered, I was getting too attached to some groups, and not just groups but individuals, such as friendships or situationships. And I feel like not a lot of us talk about the attachment style, and this also applies in the field that I work in. As a social worker, um, we talk about these attachment styles, these attachment theories, and sometimes as Christians, even for me, I had to take this into consideration because I've learned that um, I had to outgrow this attachment style that I was feeling, and that's what I wanted to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so I mean, I later discovered last year that I was always attached
Mm-hmm.
to men. Let's be honest.
Okay.
I was always attached to men, trying to look for. I want a relationship, right?
Yeah,
I
of
wanted a
course.
relationship. I wanted to settle, and so me being attached to men, it was exhausting. Like it was just not me, and I was tired of it. I came to a point where like I'm gonna uh, outgrow from this. I'm gonna grow from this. I want to change something in my life that I don't want to chase men. I don't want to chase relationship, friendships, and I've gotten hurt in the past, and there has been trauma in my life because me trying to find this relationship, it wasn't going well for me because mentally it was affecting me, where I just felt like I wasn't worthy, or I would lose myself in my identity in other people. And so I feel like I wasn't the only one who felt this way. I feel like a lot of us women in the Christian community, we want to settle, we want a relationship, we want this godly relationship, but sometimes we lose our identity in these situations.
Yeah.
And so I've been attached to men before, and it was just basically destroying my walk with God. And yeah, I mean, I later discovered that it comes from somewhere. This is a
Yeah.
pattern of mine that I needed to break. And so going into the social work field, I've also noticed that these kids too, they get attached to their parents, and we don't really talk about this in the field, but we learn to work with them. We try to work with children who've been apart. I mean, who've been separated from their family, and so that creates, of course, this attachment, right? But in this case, I did get attached with individuals in my life that I feel like they just leave and then come back, and it was just playing with my mind and my emotions.
Yeah, of course.
But there is different types of attachment. There is 4 different type of attachments that I wanted to talk about and explain the differences, and how can we navigate from that
Yeah.
with what's it called, bringing God involved, right? I don't like to label myself in anything.
Mm-hmm.
And just a warning.
Yeah.
I was diagnosed with ADHD and a learning
Yeah.
disability. So the words that I say sometimes, I'm probably gonna have like a little speech impediment.
No, it's okay.
So I do apologize in advance. But going back, like I do want to talk about these different types of attachments. So
Yeah, go for it.
There's 4, right? So one of them is disorganized attachment. The second one is avoidant attachment. The third is anxious attachment, and the fourth is secure attachment. So I want to talk about first the disorganized attachment. So I'm gonna also give out the definition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna explain a little bit more towards that. Break it down, or break down the attachments.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So the first one is disorganized attachment. So what it means is mixed with fear that desire fighting or abusive caregiving in a confused behavior, which biggest challenges in relationships. So what it means is um, this person or each individual who have this attachment crave love, right? They crave love and they do know how to love, but as soon as they feel that closeness, they tend to pull away where they show disorganized attachment. These are some of the complex patterns you see from them, where this also blends in with anxious and avoidant traits. So deep down, this person who does have this disorganized attachment wants love and safety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in psychology, this means that your brain links to, or your brain links closeness as fear. So inside our brain, we have what it's called amygdala. I don't even know how to say it,
Uh-huh.
but it's a part. It's something part of your brain that reach is a calmness inside your brain. So whenever this disorganized attachment person, what's it called, doesn't feel that calmness, it triggers them. So usually, um, their stress hormone cortisol floats in the body, where it makes the relationship feel like a mixed signal that it's not safe for them. That's usually what a disorganized attachment means. Some signs that a person does have this disorganized attachment is that these roots come from the early childhood, marks like a chaos or a neglect or an abusive way. So as a child, growing up, they've felt like they were neglectful from their caregivers. They felt that showing their love wasn't enough from their caregivers. So sometimes they tend to ignore their feelings and their emotions because they feel misunderstood. So sometimes we tend to, as Christians especially, or non-believers, we tend to run away from situations like that, where we want to try to find love and give love to someone, but we don't know how to because you've been rejected by love as a child. And so growing up, that's all you've learned. That's all you understood.
Yeah.
So it's pretty hard when it comes to situations like that because they don't know how to navigate that. They don't know how to speak their feelings and their emotions at times. So am I speaking too fast?
No, you're not. No.
Okay. And then another a sign for them is that they feel like trusting is dangerous for them. And so what it means is that they have to build that bond of trust with someone, but to them, they feel that it's dangerous because trusting, because they have to make effort and they don't like to bring out the effort sometimes. And this disorganized attachment doesn't mean that they're broken. It means that their nervous system was shaped in an unsafe environment with awareness. And so with healing, they have to find this secure attachment style. And sometimes we tend to ignore that, or tend to ignore our feelings again and just run away and not sitting still and listening to their thoughts and feelings. So that's one. I don't know if you want to.
No, so my question is, the first one, we're going over the first one, right?
Disorganized attachment, yes.
We're still on the first one, right? So, yeah, my question is, so that it all starts at a younger age, right?
Yeah.
And it all starts by being neglected as a child. Okay. No, I was just curious about that because I feel like I've met people like that. You know, they've been neglected as a child and, you know, they've always done whatever they wanted to do. And they don't have no sense of, like, what's love, You get me? To them, it's like, oh, I didn't know that if I were to do this, I'm gonna hurt someone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because they were never taught as a child, like, hey, doing this, it's not right, it's wrong.
No,
And this
yeah.
is the proper way how you're supposed to do it. You know, so that's really interesting. Did you study all this? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did research on it because, again, like, last year I came to a point in my life where I was just so tired of, again, like, of myself being so anxious all the time. And so I've came across with other people who have been, you know, an avoidant person, or as women, like, I feel that we're always anxious about if this person's gonna text me, or is this guy gonna text me? Is he gonna call me? Or, you know, it's just, why are we doing that? You know, like, we don't have to always constantly feel that we're being ignored, or we don't always have to constantly feel that we're not worthy. But it stems from somewhere. Everyone has different lifestyles. Everyone has their own past trauma, hurt. And again, like, it all stems from somewhere. And this different types of attachment, we all have something in us, you know? And so that's why I wanted to break it down and and talk about it. So yeah, but going back to that, like, I did study it. I wanted to understand someone else's point of view, and me getting to see it, me getting to understand it. I was like, okay, I want to talk about this. I want to see who I could help and who I could understand and share my experience with someone else. And so that's why I wanted to talk about the topic.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
But so the second attachment is the avoidant attachment. And again, this also stands, it's kind of similar to the disorganized attachment. However, the disorganized attachment, it's linked to your brain, and it's also linked to your nervous system. But as an avoidant attachment, it has to do a lot with early childhood. It's the same way. It's also linked to your brain and also linked to your nervous system. And I have came across an avoidant before. It was not the greatest. It wasn't, it was kind of hard for me to understand, but I wanted to understand. I wanted to see where this person was coming from.
And what was this experience for you like? Like, whenever, you know, you found out that this person was like this?
I felt frustrated, if I'm being honest. An avoidant person doesn't take accountability, and they're not very vulnerable about their emotions, only because they've been rejected before. But my experience with them was, I wanted to stay. I wanted to understand you. I wanted to talk it out, but they tend to push people away. They tend to ignore their emotions because they've been ignored in the past as a childhood, and in their childhood too. And growing up as a young adult and trying to find, let's put God in this, situation. You being avoidant, or someone being an avoidant, they have to overcome their fears. They have to, right? Everyone has to overcome their fears and face it. And sometimes some people don't, they want to leave the past in the past, but become an avoidant because of your past. It was hard for me to understand where they were coming from. But again, like, I was willing to learn. And because they pushed me away, I did this research. I wanted to understand what an avoidant symptoms or whatever.
So if you don't mind telling us, like, a little bit about that situation, like, you don't have to say names or who it was.
Yeah.
But if you can just kind of give us an example. I don't know.
So that's what I don't know. Yeah. No, so the definition of an avoidant is when a caregiver was rejecting you, leading to emotional distance and difficulty with closeness in adults. So when people who have this attachment, you're going to understand them that they're cold and hearted people, but they're not. But it means the reason why they describe them as cold or heartless people is because, one, an avoidant is just trying to protect themselves.
I used to feel that way. way. I used to always feel like always had a chip on my shoulder. I was always like mad or like just kind of protecting myself in a way where if I were to get bullied or something, they wouldn't mess with me because they're like, oh, okay, that guy crazy, you know?
Yeah.
But because that's something you're portraying yourself to be, but you're technically not. And I feel like that to me in the past used to be an identity problem.
Yes, yeah.
Because that later on became an issue where I was literally like that, believing in myself that, hey, I'm this person, but you're not. And so that teacher once told me like, hey, Luis, like, you're not that person. You're just portraying to be that person because you're protecting yourself. He's like, you're a kind and loving person. And I am, because just like that person, not saying that my family never gave me love. You know, I'm really blessed that, you know, they show me love, they care for me. But because of how situations were in my past, my mom had to have like 3 jobs, you know, and she had to take care of me and my sister. So she wasn't there, you know, not because she wanted to neglect me and not care about me, but because she had to provide for her children and she had to be gone, you know, and it does affect a child, you know?
It does.
Because it's like you see all these kids with their parents and then you ask yourself, where's mine?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, oh, they're working. Okay. You know, but when you're a child, you don't understand. You don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but it still affects you because, again, like the field that I work in, some of these kids do go to therapy. They receive counseling to talk about their emotions, to talk about the feelings, but they get rejected. They feel neglected because their parents did something they're not supposed to. And that's whenever you do grow up, that seed was planted in you. And you grow with that avoidant attachment or whatever attachment style you have. And that becomes a pattern, that becomes a lifestyle for you in a cycle. And it's important for us to also break those cycles and to change that. And that's what I did. And to me, well, going back to the avoidant, so again, like when they were children, their needs weren't met. And that's how they became that avoidant person. And so maybe in their life, love was again rejected from them. That love took place again somewhere else, and they had to understand what love is. But their nervous system rejects it whenever they try to find that love, that connection. Because closeness for them is fear, and it's a awareness of, okay, like I can't get close to you. So
oh my gosh,
I could,
am I that person?
So
no, yeah, because I can relate to that because this is the thing. I love my family, I love my parents, but I stay away from certain people that I love. Reason why is that because I know we're all gonna die soon, right? We're all gonna die someday. But it's just I guess I go through a lot of pain. I grieve a lot when someone does pass. Because as a Christian, as a believer, when you know that person does not believe in the Lord, you know, when Jesus Christ is not the Lord and Savior, where do they go? You know, it hurts me, you know, and it's really difficult. But yeah, I think I'm just that kind of person as well. I try to stay away from certain people just because I'm too attached to them that I just know that, hey, something happens, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow.
And so it also, like, to adding on to that, like the avoidant attachment person likes to control things. So for example, they are in a they're in a talking stage, right? This avoidant is in a talking stage. And whenever that other person wants to go on a date, right? They think that, oh my gosh, like if I go on this date, it's gonna get too real, and I can't do that, you know. And so they want to love someone, but they don't know how to properly love them in that way. And I want to also tie that into the Christianity, where when an avoidant is looking for Jesus, yes, they do love Jesus 100%, but when you're getting to know Jesus in that lifestyle and that mindset, it's going to be very hard. Where if you don't let that seed go, if you don't take that root out, you're going to get stuck there. And I always encourage everyone to, stay still in silence and listen to God and receive God's love and receive his word. And avoidants don't do that. They distract themselves with noise. They distract themselves being busy all the time instead of them sitting in stillness and in their own thoughts, because they don't want to face the past. They don't want to get hurt again. And so usually that's how it works with them.
I have another question. Is it harder for avoidant to keep a stronger relationship with the Lord?
It just depends, but I would say yes, because there is something, because again, like I've came across with an avoidant in the Christian church. When I met this person, it was kind of hard for them to, get, I guess, that love affection, I guess you could say. I was trying to, show this person, hey, you are loved with Christ. And that person did know that 100%. But I feel like this person wasn't receiving the proper love that he needed, if that makes sense, or she needed. So it just really depends. If you have to give it all of it, to Jesus. And I think it just really depends if it's hard for them to navigate or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because I kind of do relate to that, right? I feel like my relationship with the Lord has always been on and off. Mm-hmm. And one of the main reason is, because once we sin, we've always feel shame, feel guilt, mm-hmm. and everything like that. But then once you sin, it's like you just keep going, and it just becomes, it becomes a habit where you're just like, oh, okay, it's part of life now.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And,
yeah.
and that's when it becomes scary. And that's the thing. As an avoiding, right? An avoiding person is, I believe they try to stay away from God because they don't want to hurt him, just how they've been hurt. So they understand the truth pain of hurt. Mm-hmm. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm.
Because that's how I felt before. Sometimes there'll be like, hey, you know what? I can't be going to church, like,
yeah.
I can't be going to church. How can I go to church if I keep doing this and I keep doing that and I keep mm-hmm. doing this? It's really mainly because of sin. The moment that you sin, just like how Adam and Eve, they realize, oh, I'm naked. It's the same thing. Oh, I realize I've just sinned. Yeah, I'm embarrassed. I'm mm-hmm. ashamed. What did Adam and Eve do? They went to go hide. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing we do as humans. Yeah. We hide. So as an avoiding person, I believe they try to hide or they try to avoid that so they won't cause pain. Exactly. Because they realize what true pain is.
Yeah. And I do believe that when you whatever you think, you become. And emotions are not problems. They're signals that we all need to solve. Yeah. And as an avoidant, or with anybody, like all these different type of attachments, everyone has that signal that something's triggering you. And we define that as our whole life, but it's just a chapter where we have to fix. So going back to that chapter in your life. So as an avoidant, like how you mentioned, or you tend to think that you're going to hurt God, right? But the more you think, the more you become. Emotions are not problems. They are signals. Your past isn't your whole life story. It's just a chapter where we have to go back and go and fix it. And where we stand with God doesn't define, or how can I say this? Whatever you did in the past, that's also defining the triggers that you're having now as a young adult, right? So it's like, learn from it, but don't live there forever. God gave us all these fruits, all these gifts for us to move forward and to, live our lives the way God wants us to live, right? But not doing it based on our own will, but God's mm-hmm. will, right? Yeah. So, I mean, that's basically a little bit about the avoidant and what it is. And that goes to our third avoidant attachment. I relate a lot, and some of the women relate to this a lot. I feel like as a woman, like we tend to attach so much. We lose our identity in being anxious. I'm going to also give you the definition of an anxious person is whenever your caregiver, or it also, again, it comes from childhood, but it also comes a lot from your from adulthood. So a caregiver was inconsistent in your life, leading to anxiety, clinginess, and fear of abandonment in adults. And a perfect example for an anxious attachment is it is a pattern that forms when someone who has fear of abandonment. It doesn't have to be from childhood again. It comes from adulthood. And it stems from trauma, past rejection, and past hurt from anyone in your life. Yes, it could be relationship, friendships, and that's where I find myself in, and was, to be honest. So in the beginning, I've mentioned that I needed to change something in my life, and that was me people chasing, men and female. I felt that I've always been hurt and been failed by people inside the church and outside of the church. And it was hurting, like it hurt me, it hurt me. And I felt that my identity was always, again, people pleasing, people chasing. And there was a moment in a young adult service, there was a pastor had mentioned, if there's something in your life that you feel like you're still chasing, let it go. And for me, it was me letting go of chasing men. But because I wanted a relationship, because I've been in failed talking stages, and I wanted to settle, I just felt that I needed to change that in my life. And this happened last year. And man, like I let everything go in the altar. I told God I don't want to chase anymore.
Yeah.
And man, like 3 days later, like something changed in me that I just felt like, man, like this feels like
different.
Different. And it felt like a relief off my shoulder. Like I don't have to worry about this anymore. But of course, I'm still growing. I'm still learning about what God has for me and what God wants for me in my life. And as a woman in the faith, I've also learned that we shouldn't be people pleasing, and we shouldn't always feeling anxious is so exhausting. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. I've always felt exhausted in making sure that this person likes me for me, quote unquote. And it just felt like, again, like my identity was lost. Like I felt like my identity was on someone else but my own. And I didn't want that. So I needed to change that lifestyle for myself and learn from it.
And where do you think this attachment is coming from in your case? Growing
up, I've lived in a good, stable household. It was because of the abandonment. And it's true. It stands from failed talking stages. It has also come from church hurt, I guess you could say. Me feeling not secure enough in relationships and friendships led to my trauma, led to this anxious attachment. I feel like in my mind, I'm always constantly ready that it's not gonna go well. My brain just has that emotional side where I'm always at a high risk of sensitivity. It comes from hurt, from failed talking stages. And I just felt that I was never secure in the relationship and friendship. And I don't think it comes from my household. It just comes more from past hurt with people in general, inside the church and outside of the church.
You mentioned failed talking stages, mm-hmm. right? What does that mean?
I always searched for, love. I've always searched for, I want a boyfriend so bad. I want to be married soon. And I'm 25. Of course I want to be married soon, right? Now I understand.
Like the talking stages.
Yeah, the talking stages. So going out, getting to know this person, going on dates, and it just never goes well. Because I've always asked God, God, if this is not from you, remove it, right? Okay. But that's what I mean by talking stages, that yes, I get to know this person, but it just never goes my way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And it's so funny because I feel like everybody as a Christian, they're going through the same thing. I feel like all of us, we're all trying to get married, we all want to, because we realize how beautiful it is, marriage, how beautiful it is to have children, all those beautiful things are blessings from the Lord. So we understand the true blessings of the Lord. So I understand why, chasing the ones that we think are the ones for us and they're truly not. I used to be like that. I remember before. Now I'm married. Thank the Lord. Finally found someone that, that He had there for me. And I remember when I was young, I was talking to girls from church, trying to find out any of these girls are gonna be my wife. It never worked out. And one thing that I've noticed about those times is that you need to stop looking for love. Love needs to find you. Right?
Yeah.
And I've been through so many relationships, and I was always the one trying to like change for people. And it got to a point where my last relationship, I was like, I'm not gonna change for no one, because I was already hurt so many times. My first love, when I had my first love, she cheated on me, and then she was already pregnant from some dude. Imagine that. Like, that kind of hurts, to somebody that had the first love.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a trauma thing, and then I guess the second love now, and that one to me was just kind of dramatic too, in a way where I knew that relationship was gonna become abusive, and I didn't want that, because that's where I used to live, in an abusive household. So I knew that was a big red flag. And none of them had a relationship with the Lord. And so you finally find yourself at church and you see people that have relationships with the Lord. Now that's the tricky part, right?
Yeah.
Because now us as Christians, we're like, okay, well, we already eliminated the people from the world. That's easy. But now the people from church. And I feel like that's where the enemy takes advantage of us, because he knows what we're looking for. I feel I'm not saying that a lot of people are doing it, but there's sometimes that maybe there's some people at YA, at the young adult program that we go to, that they probably just go just to see who they can find.
Exactly.
Or, you know what I'm saying? And they miss the whole concept of like, oh, let me worship the Lord. I'm here for the Lord. I was like, no, I'm here just to like, hey, let me see what's up to everybody. Let me see who I can talk to. And I get it. We're all like in a rush, because we feel like time is going by fast, and it's understandable, because I used to be there. But once you have what what God always wanted to give you, it's a beautiful blessing. But one thing that I can tell you is that once you already have that, it's never ending. When I mean never ending, it's like the enemy's always gonna attack you in even more.
And 100%, like, I do agree that Satan likes to use the weakness in our bodies. It could be most importantly our brain, right? Our brain. I feel like our thoughts are always either negative because of the fear of doubt, or just fear in general. My biggest fear is doubt, and just me trying to be open, with people. But Satan's always going to use a weakness part of your life, or something, part of you. And I feel like my weakness was that, like, this guy is going to go to church, or this girl is going to go to church, or whatever the case is, right? But I feel like Satan likes to control in our thoughts, and that shouldn't be the case. And I feel like as us Christians, we should feel secure in our identity or within ourselves. And yes, we do struggle, but I agree with you and what you're saying. But sometimes we get lost because of a person, or because we're just so prideful sometimes. And I feel like most of the time there at YA, we don't go for the right reasons. We go because we just want to go see our friends, or because, oh my gosh, that guy is going, oh my gosh, that girl's going, let me go. Like, then why go to church? Why go to YA, if you're not doing it for the right purposes? So I think that's where we struggle in our young adult life now, because we want to find the person, we want to feel good, and that leads to comfort, and I don't think that should be the case. I mean, this is the last attachment that I feel like as a Christian or non-Christian, we have to feel that security within ourselves. And this is what the topic is. I mean, the next attachment is a secure attachment. And what it means is that when a caregiver was constantly available and responsive to you as a child, and learning to trust and comfort in intimacy. So I feel like men tend to have
a good secure attachment style. I mean, that's just me, so like me thinking, but I don't know if that's true. I mean, a lot of men have different type of lives and different type of styles. I feel like majority men do have this. There's also an insecure attachment. So what it is that, again, like this also connects to our nervous system and as well to our brains. And so if going deeper, so what it means, I could give you some examples. So an attachment is knowing how the individual is safe in their own identity. Secure people communicates their needs, and insecure people don't communicate their needs. So they assume that you could read my mind, you could read my thoughts. So an example is like I'm angry, right? I'm angry at you, and and I expect you to know why I'm angry. So that's where the insecurity comes into play. And so another example is a secure person will always create strict boundaries with you. And an insecure person tends to test those boundaries. And so we shouldn't do that, right?
Yeah,
As an insecure person. Secure people can be alone and still be happy and enjoy life, while an insecure person cannot stand the silence. Yeah. A secure people seek to understand. An insecure person needs constantly reassurance. A secure person will argue to solve problems, and an insecure person will always feel like they're always right in everything. And a secure person will love without losing themselves, while an insecure person will lose themselves desperate to be loved. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's really relatable to people. Mm-hmm. Like, honestly, I feel like, how can you not relate to this topic? Wow. Okay.
And keep in mind, like, I mean, because I would call myself antes, right? Like before, I would tell myself, man, I'm so anxious all the time, and I need constantly reassurance. As an anxious person, you need reassurance. And I feel like I needed that, and I feel like I still need it, only because like I want to be sure and I want to be certain. That way I don't have to waste my time on someone or a situation, right?
And my question to you, so what do you do? Like, how do you make yourself feel like, okay, I'm certain, I'm sure, okay, that person's not for me?
When for sure prayer. For me, I pray and I ask God if it's in His will, if this person is meant to be in my life, we'll keep him or keep her here. If not, we'll remove them. That prayer always works. Yeah. But I feel like as Christians, we have to be strong in discernment and to discern. And if you know that person isn't for you, then it's time to like let them go, and I think that's part of it where I feel like I don't struggle with, because I could discern really quick and who's for me, who's not.
But for someone that they see the red flags, right? Mm-hmm. And yet they still have people around them and telling that person, like, hey, like, I don't think this relationship is for you. Like, what advice do you give them? Like, how can they detach themselves from that situation?
But I always ask them, you see all these red flags, but are you worthy of love? I feel like our identity does get lost in a person. And yes, they do see all these red flags, but how do they learn? Like I could give them advice. I could, tell them not to do this, not to do that, but it's their choice in the end of the day, what they want to do with it. But in the end, like I can't control what they do, right? I can only give them advice. And that advice is that, hey, you see all these red flags, but as a friend, I would want you to, leave this relationship. But if it's an abusive relationship, that's a whole different story. Of course, if they're in an abusive relationship, they need to talk to someone about it. And it could be super hard because, they love this person so much, right? But, I was actually reading this source where there's a difference between loving someone and actually being in love with someone. People confuse attachment with love and comfort for being in love. And so loving someone is soft, right? But being in love with someone is work. And a lot of people tend to love because it's easier and it's soft, but a lot of people don't want to work for it. So most of us want the softness again, and they don't want to take that responsibility of being in love. So I would also ask anyone who's ever hearing this, that ask yourself whether you're actually in love, or are you actually in love with the idea of them. And sometimes we battle ourselves with that because it's like, man, like I want to stay here because it feels so comfortable, it feels so good, but I know within myself that this person isn't for me, but yet they're still there because they don't know how to get out of it. And it is hard in that situation because even if, let's just say, you know, you married this person, but you felt that, man, like, I don't know if I made this right choice or not, but you know, it's, you know, and God created, you know, marriage. And when you're in that marriage, you're in that covenant and you can't break it. But that's why I always encourage, you know, my friends now, like in our singleness journey and my singleness journey, is don't rush. You know, I don't like to rush and I don't like to settle. And that's how you build that secureness within yourself, that security. And I think that's also important as Christians, is that like I had to let go of things in my life where there were so much patterns and so much cycles where I was like, you know what, how can I feel confident? How can I feel the calling that God has for me? How can I see myself worthy enough? And one of the tools that I've learned and changed was, you have to learn how to love yourself the way Jesus loves you, right? And how do you know that? How do I, you know, get to experience that? Well, first of all, Jesus died for you in the cross, you know. He made that sacrifice because he does love you, right? And I feel like some of us tend to feel that because for example, for me, as a kid growing up, like I've always been that chubby kid. I've always been that chubby girl in my whole entire life. And, you know, my family calls me, what was it called? Poito, right? Because I was like, bro, because I was fat, right? But in the end, like that's how they labeled me. They labeled me as Poito, right? But that doesn't define me now. Now they don't even call me that, right? But you don't want to define yourself as this label, this person, because just because someone else called you that doesn't mean that that's your whole life story, your whole identity. And I mean, as Christians, we have to find our self-worth with Jesus, right? And I mean, you don't live by anybody's approval but God's, and God is the only one who defines you because he chose you for a reason. And a good scripture is Psalms 139:13-14. It says, you formed the way I think and feel. You put me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because you made me in such a wonderful way. I know how amazing that was. And God is the creator. God created everybody. And us thinking that we're not good enough, we're this, we're that, those insecurities come into play in our lives, in our minds. And we tend to have those thoughts and captive in our minds, and that just defines our whole identity. That's what we think, right? Yeah. But it shouldn't be that way. But yeah, just building your confidence. I mean, that's what I had to learn, is build my confidence that I know I'm worthy. I know what I am, and I mean who I am with Christ, right? Because God has called me to be that person, right? We shouldn't, you know, have that doubt, that fear. I mean, we do, right? But that shouldn't define us. Yeah. And that's how I've learned how to be so secure within myself and my own identity. Oh yeah, 100%. And I liked what you stand for too in your podcast, and hopefully it helps in everybody. I'm pretty sure it has helped with everybody. But again, like, it's just trying to find your worth in Jesus and nobody else. I had to stop people pleasing because that was one of the hardest thing. And I feel like even then, like as an anxious person, like I just felt I wasn't being myself around people. I feel like I had to please them in order for me to feel good about myself. And when you're in a relationship and you find these things within yourself that you just feel like, man, that's not me. Like, why is my boyfriend or, my spouse controlling me? Like this is not, that's not who I am. Like, I'm this crazy girl, but yeah, you're controlling me to be a quiet girl, and we don't want that. And as a believer, we don't want to, be controlling towards people. You want to marry your best friend, like how you said. And if for those who are in a relationship, I would, if you're in an abusive relationship or you're in a relationship and it just didn't go well for you, God allowed it to happen, but he didn't bless it. So how do you navigate with that? Well, of course, like you would have to ask God to, give you that confidence that your identity that God planted in you, but you just have to look for it. And sometimes, again, like we get lost within ourselves because of a marriage, a relationship, friendships, and we want to find ourselves through Christ, right? And we don't want to get lost, and that's how we usually get lost with ourselves. But yeah, I mean, we grow, we learn, and I like to listen and understand people. I don't really like to talk as much. I feel like I'm not really good with my words, but I tend to understand other people's point of views. But
yeah, I try to too. It's really interesting, but wow, it was really good. So I mean, before we do close the doors of the venting vote, is there anything that you want to tell to the person who's watching right now? Is there something like a specific message that you want to let them know?
I mean, I will start off with a question, and that question is, do you feel like you're worthy of love? Whatever different attachment styles that you have, ask yourself that if you're worthy of love, and if you feel like you aren't, I encourage everybody to look for Jesus, look for God as your ultimate answer, because he is love. He will give you that love and that, fruit of the Spirit for you to understand it. And and just continue on finding, different ways and break those cycles that you feel like you've struggled with in your attachment. Because it's not easy, but it's not gonna, you're not gonna how do you call it? You're not gonna change a whole 180 by tomorrow. No, it's gonna take time, and it took me time. But ask yourself that is, are you worthy of love, right? And that's pretty much.
Well, thank you so much, Allison. Well, if you want them to follow you or to reach out, if they have any questions, you can just let them know on what is your Instagram or Facebook. If you want to, you don't have to. We'll just put them in the comment below, so no worries.
But yeah, I mean, they could find me on Instagram. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna share this video too on my story. But you guys you guys are always free to message me, DM me about more of this, and we could talk. But my Instagram post, we could link it, right?
I'll put it in the description below. But honestly, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing this. I feel like this could actually help a lot of people, and it was really good to me just to kind of reflect the kind of person I used to be before I found Jesus Christ, and it's just like, it's a really great, beautiful message. So I just want to thank you so much for, taking your time and reaching out.
Yes, thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome, man. And guys, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you guys haven't subscribed, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys soon next time. Thank you.